Good afternoon. Welcome to Thunder's YouTube Garage. I'm Paul. My friends call me Thunder, and you can too. Today I wanted to take a few minutes and do a walk around on this CJ5 tub that I've been working on and just talk about some of the things that I need to do to it, to prepare it, to put it back on the frame, and talk about what my ultimate vision is of this Jeep when it's finished. So let me get set up. We'll go outside. We'll take a look at this tub. See you in a minute. Okay, I got this tub pushed out of the garage outside. It is a beautiful day out here today. We've had a cold snap here for about the last week where it's been down in single digits, but today it's about, I think it was 42 or 43 degrees when I checked the temperature a little while ago. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon right now, so I wanted to wait until it's a little bit warmer to do this. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about on this tub is a lot of these holes that were put into it by the previous owner. The guy I bought it from said that it had diamond plate armor on it that he took off, but there's all of those small rivet holes that held that armor in place. In addition to those, there's some other holes like these two that I'm not exactly sure what those were for, unless they are for some kind of a canvas top or something, a fold down top that it may have had on it. There's also a lot of holes up in the wheel wells on the back that I'm not exactly sure what all of those are for. There's also, I think I counted 20 bolts just in the bed of this thing that I'm not sure what they're for. I looked underneath it and they've just got nuts on them. They aren't hooking anything in, so I'm guessing they were drilled for something else, and then they just put bolts in them to cover the holes. So those are a lot of the things that I need to address on this tub. One of the other things that I'm going to do is I'm going to sand it down to bare metal. I just want to know what exactly I've got. There's 3 or 4 layers of paint that I can see, and so I want to get it down to bare metal where it's a known quantity, where I can get all the Bondo off of it and see if there's any more Bondo that I didn't know about. I found a spot right here the other day that is all rusted out. I'm going to have to cut part of that out, maybe over into here, replace that sheet metal. Problem is there is a support bar behind that is one of the body supports that goes down. It's I don't know if you can see that, but it's one of the body mounts that is welded to the sheet metal. I'm hoping that I can do it without taking that body mount off, but I may need to. There's also another hole on the other side. It's not near as bad as that one, in kind of the same spot, that I'm going to have to address that as well. As I've sanded a little bit, I found little bits of Bondo here and there. Those 2 rusty spots were filled in with Bondo. This part right here is actually dented in a little bit. Instead of knocking the dent out, they just put a bunch of Bondo in there, gooped it in there, and I don't want to be a Bondo beautician on this Jeep tub. I'm going to fix the metal the best that I can, and I will probably use a little bit of body filler to smooth out some of the spots that I couldn't get perfect. But for the most part, I want this just to be metal and paint. I don't really want any body filler on it if I can get away from that. There's a few holes that I know are supposed to be in there. This, for example, is a support for a canvas top. On the back there is supposed to be some as well that were removed. In process of them being removed, they dented this metal up right in here. I need to try to pound that out, make that round again. But I also have some bow pockets that I'm going to weld back onto this body and put it back to original. That's one of the things that I need to do on this as well. Those 4 holes, they're supposed to be there as well. Those are the seats on these were, the driver's seat was adjustable, but to adjust it you had to unbolt it and just slide it back or forward depending on what position you wanted it in. And those are the holes that seat frame bolted to and moved back. So those need to stay there. I'm pretty tall. I'm 6'4", and so that seat's going to be back as far as it'll go for me, and my kids are all tall too, so I don't think that seat will ever move once we get it put in place. But there are just a lot of holes in here. There's some holes for some hinges that this had on it at one time. In fact, there's the hinges. I'm using those as washers to hold this tub onto the little cart that I have to move it around. Now, something that I did before I started doing videos on this Jeep is I replaced the firewall. That firewall is out of the original tub that came with the Jeep. It was in a lot better condition than the firewall that was on this tub. On this tub, a previous owner had cut that firewall apart. They'd put in a bigger motor, I suppose that's what they did, and they needed to make room, and so they, you know, cut pieces out and tore, you know, just, I don't know, they just kind of mangled that firewall up, and I wasn't happy with it. And rather than trying to fix all the holes in it, I just decided that I would cut out the firewall from the original tub and weld it back into here. In doing that, I had to cut the spot welds. I don't know if you can see those very well with the sun and the shadow there, but there's a lot of little holes along in here where I had to drill out the spot welds that were holding the firewall in place. That's something that I need to go back in and fill in those holes, and then actually weld this firewall completely back to the tub. I've got some self-tapping screws in there now holding it in place, and I have already started welding the floor to the original floor. And that's what that is there, and there's some of it over there. My welds aren't great, and I haven't finished welding it. It's mainly just been tacked in just to hold it in position so that I could do some measurements on that transmission tunnel to make sure that I got it in the right spot and that it fit right. Incidentally, it is. It fits really good, so that's a good thing. The previous owner also cut out part of the floor here. This is supposed to come over here, and then it cuts back in here a little bit and then goes down and ties in all the way here. So they cut out this big chunk there, I'm guessing to fit a bigger transmission in, and I'm going to replace that as well. They cut out this hole. I'm going to cover that up. This hole is supposed to be there. It's supposed to be a square. That's for the PTO. That was an option on these early CJ5s. There's just a lot of little things that I need to do to get this tub ready to go. There's a few spots in here. I don't know if those show up very well on the camera, but these are holes that they just filled in with body filler. There's another one over here somewhere that should be there, and those were for the spare tire mount, and I'm going to mount those holes, that spare tire mount as well, so those holes are going to stay. But most of these little tiny holes in here, I need to fill those in, and it's going to take quite a bit of work, especially since I'm not a welder. So we're going to learn. By the time I get done with this Jeep, I ought to be an expert. This big hole that you see right here, I actually drilled that hole. That is for a trailer light plug, a military spec trailer light plug that the original tub had on it. I want it to be on this Jeep. I have a early Bantam trailer that I got when I bought this Jeep that I actually want to restore it as well. We'll talk about that another day, but I'd like to have it to pull behind this Jeep. I think that would be kind of a cool addition to it. And my goal with this Jeep is to restore it back to the Navy Jeep that it originally was. The original color of that Jeep is that gray color that you can see on the back side of this firewall. And that's the color I'm going to paint it when it's done. I'll post some pictures of some examples of Navy CJ5s that were similar to this one. Now the CJ5s, to my understanding, I can't find a lot of information on those. On the internet, I can find some, but the best information that I can find is that the Navy only had about 400 of these Jeeps. And I don't know if that was, you know, how long a period of time that was, but that makes it kind of a rare thing in my mind. I might be wrong. I mean, it may, some people tell me, well, it's just a CJ5, but it has a tag on it that came on the dash with it that is, you know, a brass tag that says it was property of the Department of the Navy. Not only identifying the chassis by the serial number, but also giving it a Navy equipment number. And so I think that makes it kind of a rare Jeep. Not that I'm building this thing to, because of the value of it. I don't know if I'll ever get the money back out of it that I'll put into it. But I just think the history and, you know, just what it was, it's the pedigree of this Jeep is pretty cool. And that there weren't very many of them that the Navy used. Anyway, I just wanted to do this video just to show you what my ideas were. Okay, that's going to do it for me today. Next video, I'll start stripping down the paint on that tub. I'm going to clean out the bed liner that is put in it and show you some of the techniques that I found that work best for getting that bed liner out. Whether you have a Jeep or something else that has some of that bed liner, if you've tried getting it out, you know that it's kind of a pain to get it out. It's a lot tougher than regular paint is. And I'm also going to be welding on the bow pockets on the back quarter panels, the back corners of that Jeep tub. So with that, I'm going to leave you today. But remember, love God and love your neighbor. That's the key to true happiness in this life.